Hey guys, happy Friday. Man, weeks fly by like that, I tell you. So I don't know if you can see my wonderful still life today. I might bring it in a little closer so that I can bring down my view so that you can see my paper a little bit clearer. There we go. Hopefully that'll work. Looks like I have 2 watercolor sets here. I don't. This is my phone. It fools everybody. Everywhere I go and I set it down on a table, everyone's like, wow, you brought your paints with you? No, I wish that there was some way to get paints on the back of your phone. But my guess is they wouldn't be exposed like this. But yeah, it's been my favorite case. I get lots of compliments on this guy. So I won't be painting from this, but that's there anyway. So I wanted to paint. So these daffodils are from my front yard. And I picked a bunch of these like early this week. And so they're kind of a little crumply and definitely kind of going out. This one's a fresher one from the yard the other day. And I had a few more that I could have picked, but I was kind of like, well, let's just stick with these guys. And they still look nice. And they smell they smell like lilies, which is awesome because I don't have any lilies right now, even though it's Easter week. Happy Easter week to everybody. So these are bringing me a lot of joy because they smell like lilies. And obviously they're super cheerful. So they've been in my kitchen like all week. So I thought it would be kind of fun. It's kind of different for me to paint from life, paint a still life. Obviously I'm going to be painting from my view of these guys. So it's not exactly what you're seeing from the camera view. But I tried to rearrange them in a way that was going to be interesting from my view. But I wanted to start by giving myself a taped off border, which I've done before on a live video, and I've also done in a YouTube video, like a pre-recorded. So if you're interested in how that process works, how to do it accurately, how to get straight edges, straight lines, and tape it correctly, and whether it's for framing or just for laying out your picture, I can link that YouTube video in the description of this video later. Because it's been a pet peeve of mine, knowing how to use a ruler and measure and get straight lines and straight edges and all that stuff. And I teach a lot of students, and so I try to teach them those skills because it's kind of important. So from this page, which I don't even know how big this is, 10 by 7.5, kind of an awkward size. It's not even 10 by 8. But I think I just want to come in. Let's see, my tape here is, it's basically an inch wide. It's a little bit short of an inch wide, but it's basically an inch wide. It's not even like 1/16 smaller. It's like less than that. So yeah, so we're going to say it's an inch. I might honestly, maybe I don't do the measuring because this is an inch. If I keep it an inch from the edge the whole way, it'll be a nice inch border. I normally tape when I'm using watercolor just because, well, you're using paper, and so when you're using paper, it wrinkles a lot with watercolor because as the water dries and stuff, it just warps the paper a little bit. Absolutely normal. So it's a way of sort of stretching it and keeping it flat. There's other cool ways of doing it, which I have not tried, but I've wanted to for so many years. And with watercolor paper, you can actually soak it in the bathtub. Obviously not too long, otherwise it will completely dissolve probably and clog your tub. But you soak your watercolor paper in the tub, and then you, as it's like, once it's wet and soaked, you take it off and you put it on like a wood board or like a plywood board or something like that. And then you staple it down. And then as it dries, it tightens and it shrinks down. But it's super tight to the board and super flat. And apparently that just like is the bomb when it comes to painting on a flat surface for watercolor. I have, again, never tried it, but I like want to try it because it'll be kind of interesting to see how that works compared to, obviously it's gonna be better than tape, because tape, even with it taped down, it still warps. And my guess is when you paint on the other stuff that's stretched, it'll still warp as you're painting, but then as it dries, it's going to tighten again. So kind of an interesting thing. I'm going to maybe turn my picture this direction. And, oh, there we go. Like part of me wants to jump in. I was thinking of doing like an ink outline for most of this, but I might just sort of plan out my composition just slightly. So I'm going to just give myself a little bit of an angle here so I can look at this pretty straight on. And I'm going to put this flower off center. Sometimes you have to, when you're drawing from life, you actually have to like close one eye because, especially with it this close to me, like because our eyes are separated, we have two eyes and therefore we can see in 3D. But when you're drawing it 2D, you do have to kind of sometimes close one eye to make sure that the perspective and sizing and all that is right. It's kind of interesting to have the ones that are kind of dying off in the distance here. The more living one forward like that. my. Ah. The perspective of the top of the vase is actually kind of tricky. I don't like doing the tops of vases. Oops. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get I wanted to get like the bottom of the vase in there. Like where it warps the stems a little bit, but I don't think the way I plan this out I'll be able to. Which is probably okay because I wanted more of a close-up anyway. I'd still get some interesting movement in here. I mean, I might be able to see the water down at the bottom. Kind of like right as it goes into the water. I'll show you this in a second. Let me just make sure this is. Actually, yeah, it might be a lot higher than I was thinking. That water line. I am using a dreaded mechanical pencil. How dare I? I love and hate these things. I hate them because a lot of my students use them in a drawing class when they shouldn't be using them in a drawing class because they're really not good for sketching and shading. They're awful. And for some reason, they end up with these in class, which is a big pet peeve of mine. However, so I'm being kind of a hypocrite here using it. However, they're really good for detail work. So this is not a good example of using one correctly. But like all my family little portraits that I've done, these were great. This is how I sketched everything out. Because you need something small like that. The tip stays sharp and small constantly, which is nice. But it's not good for shading. And a lot of times my process for teaching and instructing and even drawing requires jumping into shading like almost as soon as you can. And if you're using one of these guys, you're really limiting that possibility. So do what I say, not what I do. Is that what I'm saying here? Maybe. Okay, so a lot of interesting things happening down there in the water. Okay, but there is basically my composition of the scene. Hopefully making sense that it goes off the page and doesn't like end right at the page. It looks like that could be the bottom of the vase, but the bottom of the vase is like down here. So hopefully. Thanks, Carissa, for the question. She said, so then why are you choosing to use a mechanical pencil? Honestly, because it's right here next to me. I do have this one next to me, but it is a 3B, which means it's extremely dark, and I definitely don't want that because I want my lines to disappear eventually. So this happened to be here at this table right now, and I was like, oh, that'll work. We'll work with it. I think it was here from, did I draw a fish with it last week? I possibly did. So it's been sitting here, and I was like, well, we'll use it. In a crunch, you kind of just grab what's around. Okay. So now I think I want to give this an inked outline. I kind of like that look. So I'm going to come in and do that. I'm going to see if I should do it closer because I have my whole outline there. It is my chance to kind of fix things and change things though. So I want to make sure I'm actually still looking at my subject and not just making it up. And I'm probably going to be more picky, or not picky, that's not what I meant to say. More, I don't know, general with how I put down my lines, because I almost want to be more like distinct line and not like fuzzy, hairy line. So committed, that's the word I want. A committed line. I might even outline like dark shapes that I'm seeing also, because that'll make for an interesting, very interesting coloring process, which will be kind of fun. Okay. Then we've got stems coming down. Maybe. Yep, there we go. A little bit higher. Okay, there's that so far. Liking it, I'm digging it. It's kind of the look I was going for, which is kind of fun. There's a lot of cool like patterns of dark in here. I love, drawing and painting glass can be hard, but honestly, if you just know what you're looking for, it can be really fun. Because it's kind of abstract shapes in dark and light, which is just super cool. Oh, I'm missing this little section. Like that. And, that would change based off the view. So from you, I guess you can kind of see the little dark edges here where the edge of the table is reflecting or is being warped as it goes into the glass. That's what I'm seeing from my view as well. but it all changes on view, and so you have to kind of keep your head still and literally just draw what you see. And again, it's tricky when it's 3D and it's so close to you. You do have to close your eye, one eye, and kind of visualize it flat versus three-dimensional. I'm not like crazy happy with how the perspective of the top happened, but you know, it's not quite. I think there's parts where it dips too much and whatnot, but we can kind of fix it a little bit. Okay, now the flowers. This is where we can add in a little bit more texture. Let's see. I'm going to start with the center of this guy and work out because it's got a lot of little things happening in there. And I want to get the perspective right, which is tricky. It's got this beautiful pleated edge. It's gorgeous. And I really roughly put in these leaves. So this is where, or these petals. So this is where I want to make sure that I really watch and mimic those edges. Something like that. The color that I'm going to put in is really going to bring out the values that need to happen to make it really look right. But we can kind of work with these other little dudes in the background who are a little shakier. They're farther away, so I don't have to worry too much about some of the detail. I want this guy to kind of be the focus. Ooh. Oh. I might have to jump to this one. The thing with using pen is you often have to like work on something that's technically in front of everything else and then work on the things behind, because otherwise if you work on things behind and you end up going through something that's supposed to be in front of it, too bad, you have a line in there now. So I catch myself, I'm like, oh no, wait, I gotta do this flower first because he is in front. And if I do him first, then everything else just is coming from behind him, and it's easier to see that. I can't tell you how beautiful these smell. It's amazing. It gives me so much joy. I'm so excited about spring and summer coming. It's just going to be awesome. I hope all this virus stuff really tapers off before true summer hits, because it would be nice to go places and spend time with people outside and all that. So that is my prayer, is that we can take this social distancing seriously, really seriously when we need to, so that we can end it sooner and be able to enjoy the summer. I hope. It's so hard to know, but I hope. Yeah, now I can go in and put this guy in here because he is in front of the other one. Ooh, ooh. They're a little shakier, they're a little older, right? So that's kind of fun to put in there. Okay, now I can finish this guy behind here a little bit. Give him that little dry pod that breaks off after they open. Okay. Oh, and actually there's some of that here too. And then we'll try this one, which I kind of shortened a little more because I wanted to get more of these petals in here. That's okay, right? Is that allowed? I don't know. No one's gonna know, right? Except for you guys. That I've made him a little shorter than normal. Okay, there's that. I think I'm pretty happy with it. I like it. It was pretty much what I envisioned. Now, my good old kneaded eraser is like who knows where. That's the best thing to use, but we'll use the mechanical again. Gosh darn it. And just erase the pencil because I want it to be pretty clean. Got some like little fuzzies on the tape. Okay. Okay. Oh, shaking the whole table. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. I don't make you seasick. When I'm recording like pre-recorded stuff and I really have to like hold the table down as I erase so that it doesn't shake like everything because that just doesn't look good. So sorry if I'm not like caring as much because we're live. Okay, there we go. Boom. Cleaned up sketch with sharp outlines. Looks kind of like a coloring book page. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. And we're going to paint it. Yay. So now I'm not sure. Oh, actually, you know what I didn't put in here was the edge of the table. So if I'm in the same position I was, let's see, the table edge is like here. And actually, I think that's going to be helpful because I'm just going to kind of generally put that in there. And it's helpful because I want, in order for the yellow to really pop, I need to make the background really dark. I think I talked about that last week when I did my koi fish painting. In order for them to really pop off the page, you have to work with contrast. Contrast is huge. You cannot underestimate contrast. I'm working on recording a whole color course that will be online eventually, hopefully before too long. I'm almost done with it. And I talk a lot about those types of things and how color interacts with other colors. And my yellow doesn't have to be even that bright. As long as my background is super dark, it's going to come across as really bright. So, thank you guys for watching, people joining now. Thank you, thank you. Hopefully you're finding it enjoyable, entertaining, and inspiring. I hope you can work on projects of your own, either while I work on this or later today or this weekend. All right, so I'm gonna, let's see my process here. Do I want to do the background? Ooh, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do a wet on wet dark background. So I'm gonna mix up. I'm gonna put my paints here because I'm gonna kind of hold my paper this time, I think. So, and I don't often use black when I'm painting. I try not to, hardly ever. But with watercolor, especially when you want to get dark really fast, because watercolor is pretty transparent and light. And you're working with a lot of tints, which means color with white in it, because your paint is so thin that it the white of the paper shows through. So I often use black with watercolor if I want my contrast to go up quicker. My darks to go up quicker. Okay, so I'm gonna just mix. I'm gonna mix a few different dark colors here. Let's make this one greener. And we'll do another one that's maybe more blue. The thing with the wet on wet technique is you do want to make sure your colors are ready, because if they are not, you're in trouble because you have to work fast. I love this blue with this purple. Oh, sorry, you can't see that, can you? La-di-da. There you go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, and I can kind of work section at a time. So this corner here, I'm going to put down just plain old water, watching my edges. So I'm painting with water as if there's color in it, being careful where I put it. La-di-da-di-da, all the way around to where I can maybe stop putting color or putting water. And then making sure there's not too much water. Then I can plop in a color, and it's only going to go, as long as I don't have too much drippage, it's only going to go where I want the color to go, or where I put the water. So like that. I can't lift it for you because it will drip. I can tip it and kind of maneuver it a little bit, and then you get little puddles, and you want to suck those puddles up by putting a dried off brush right on the corner there, and it can vacuum it up. So otherwise that stuff just goes right back into the drying painting. But there's my wet on wet. Now notice how it's not very dark, right? So I'm going to have to go back and probably do another layer of that. But let's come in here now and we'll do the same thing. This is a negative space. I really don't want too much water because that really hurt me on that one side because it was really hard to control that water. But it's like those ink drawings, or ink paintings where if you put down water and you put a bunch of ink actually acts a little differently than watercolor. It spreads so much quicker and so much more dramatically that you can kind of get some cool effects that way. I should be using ink for the background because I want it to be dark enough. But we'll just, we'll work with layers. We'll work down here and come back up and do that again. Okay, let's do this section now. All the way to the edge of the table, which I kind of implied a little bit with just a basic line. It's amazing how quickly my paint and my palette just like dries up on me. Hopefully you're seeing how that's moving there. Putting in some more vibrant colors, letting it really fall to one side so I can vacuum it up and it doesn't bleed into something it shouldn't. Ooh, I like what's happening. That's going to change, though, even more as it sits here. The, joy and curse of watercolor. But isn't that cool? Ooh. Super fun. I love watercolor. Watercolor is probably my favorite medium because it's easy cleanup. It's easy to get out. It's easy to travel with. So every time I travel somewhere, I have my little travel watercolor set and everything can be little. And it just dries so quickly. And there's just so many cool things with watercolor that make it my favorite. Okay, I think that technically is a stem. So we got just a little section here of some color. Yeah, that looks right? All right, now we can come over here, do the same thing, because it's kind of an isolated. If you have a big area, you have to do the whole area at once. Otherwise, like one big connected area. Otherwise, the paint just sort of starts drying in spots and then really wet in other spots, and you run into a lot of problems that you don't necessarily want. Okay, here we go. Woohoo. Oh, I got a little bit on the pedal. Ah. Oh, and by the way, this is live stream number 22, which means I have gone 22 weeks straight doing a live stream, which is pretty crazy. It wasn't always on a Friday like today is, but I was trying my best to every week get this in because it's painting time for me and I can connect with you guys and inspire other people, share my work, share my process, all that stuff, which I find is really important in so many ways, especially during this time when the world is just kind of crazy and people are at home and people are scared and people are possibly depressed and struggling. And I think art is going to make me tear up. Ooh. Art is very therapeutic. So thank you for watching and being a part of this community of people that enjoy art. It means a lot to me, and hopefully it means a lot to you. And, when I say art, I kind of mean any type of creative outlet. Like, art's not just painting and drawing, and it could be music, it could be knitting and sewing, it can be writing and dancing and tons of stuff. I just happened to pick my favorite, and that's what I want to share with the world. So hopefully you can pick your favorite. Oh, I love that blue. It kind of stains the paper. Look at that. Blue with the black and the green. Woohoo! But see, this one's even changed since it's dried. Okay. Sorry, I got to tip it this way to see if I can get a little bit more of that sucked up there. All right, so I think that's all my background. Now there's spots in the vase itself that are similar colors. So I want to come in and and I can just paint these in because they're small enough. Ooh, I'd be careful of edges. Ah, it's a little creepy. I should probably switch to a smaller brush. Why haven't I, you may ask? Well, I tend to stick with one brush for a whole painting generally. And I think it's either because I'm lazy or because I can find ways to make the one that I have do whatever I want it to do. That was actually the consistent question that most of my students this week were asking me. They're like, which brush should I use? When we were doing the project. And that's hard for me to answer because you could literally use any brush to do whatever you want as long as you know how to control it. But of course, they're young enough and new enough to art that I was like, okay, I guess you probably should have, one round and one flat. Okay, so now I could probably let's see what's going to be dry. I guess these stems here might be a good place to go next. It's an interesting green. It's not like green, it's like a sagey green. Let's see if I can get that color. It's not quite there. That's closer. Maybe I'll do that for now. And actually, as it goes into the water, it looks like it warms up a little bit more. So well, that's not true. When it comes out the other side, it warms up, which we don't see much of. In the water, though, it's actually the same color, but extremely light. So I'm going to water down my color and just keep it kind of on the lighter end here. And there's definitely that color reflected in the water off to the side and behind and things too. So putting that in wherever I see it is going to be important. And then there's some dark sort of shadows in here. I can come in when this is still maybe a little wet and put in some value changes into the stems because they're three-dimensional, right? And so in order to do that, I need to be showing off some value. Hopefully I didn't do that too soon because it's kind of blending with stuff that maybe I didn't want to blend with, but there's the stems. Patience and letting things dry is the curse with watercolor, right? Okay. And the stems look a little lighter outside of the water, or the glass, I mean, up here. Or is it lighter? It's like lighter but bluer. Looks like this. And I think my background is probably, it's dry enough, yeah, that I can come in and put that color down. So you can see a little bit of difference between like inside the glass, outside the glass. And that's just like from my view. I don't know if that's actually happening, but you know, it's about drawing and painting what you see if you're going for still life. Now the glass, I probably want to come down to the glass because now that I've done, well, I suppose I could come back to my background in spots that aren't connected to the stems, because the stems I just did, and they're going to be fairly wet, and I don't want to influence that. I'm loving what the background is doing right now, but it needs to be darker for my yellow to really pop. So I can kind of go with the same colors, but I'm going to have to be a little bit more generous with maybe the black paint, but I'm going to still do wet on wet so that I can get a little bit more marbly effect. I don't want too much water for this because I want don't want to have to take so much off. So I'm wiping some of that off, but making sure it's all wet at the same time, angling it towards the light a little bit. And then I come in and purple. I'm just going with the purple, man. Purple and the black. Because purple is the opposite of yellow. And if I'm going to have yellow right next to that purple, it is going to pop off the page. I guess this upper section here isn't touching any stem, so I might come up here next. Put down some water. Oftentimes when you do that, it kind of moves depending on how wet or how fresh the underlayer was. Excuse me. It can pull up some of the undercolor slightly because you can still move and manipulate watercolor fairly easily. I'm kind of matching my pattern as before with like where the colors go. I want some green. Oh yeah, so pretty. I should maybe hint at a little bit of purple as if it's come over this direction. Oh, so nice. And much darker. It's still going to dry light. Watercolor dries lighter. But isn't that better? This is layer 1 and this is layer 2. So much better. I should soak up any puddles. And I've noticed how I've had my paper in my hand the whole time because I can manipulate and move and angle it any direction I want, which gives me freedom to work from it upside down. I think that happens a lot with like new artists. They forget that like you don't have to always draw it right side up and work on it right side up. You can move it around and do lots of crazy things. But look at those colors, man. Hopefully you can see it's not, the screen's not doing it justice. That blue and green with the purple and the black. Oh. I'm gonna have to do that now down here a little bit too. So this is separated. I can do this section with some water, and this is kind of boring. It's like blue purple down here. I need to do something about that. I'm gonna put in some more of that blue as if it's coming down from the top, and then we'll go into some black, and then we're gonna do green off to this side. And, you know, we might as well just hint at a little purple somewhere, because I do want that purple to contrast with the yellow when we put that in. Okay. Ooh, got a little too much water. Okay. Woohoo! Loving it. All right, so now I think stems are probably dry. I can come in, do some of these in between little spaces. And I want a little more purple, I think, in here. And then maybe some green, because it's got kind of a green. You have to kind of think of the background as one whole piece. And so if this is sort of blue-green right in here, that's going to kind of transition probably behind these dudes. But there's the beautiful wet on wet happening in the background. This paper is holding up better than I thought. It's I think I mentioned this last week when I did my koi fish. It's not as porous as normal watercolor paper. It's technically, I don't know if you can call it watercolor paper. But I've worked on it a lot, so I know how to kind of manipulate it. But here's my koi fish from last week. And it's, it dries relatively flat once it's taped. So not too bad. Okay, I'm going to just paint this little section in. And then we're going to do this last side of the background. And then we're going to go back down to the glass and add some medium values to the glass. And then we can go to the flowers. It's going to be so exciting. And pop in that yellow like nobody's business. Okay, let's see. Color-wise, let's put some green in here. Move in some black to keep the contrast up. And then we're going to move into some purples over to the side. I might come back to this blue, though. This blue is really kicking it. There we go. Look at that. Woo! I'm having so much fun, guys. Hopefully you're having fun with me. Let's see. Get this to maneuver a little bit more. Okay. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I don't think it's going to need a third layer, is my guess, because this one's drying more. It's still not completely dry. But that's fairly dark. I think the contrast will be enough. And once I take the tape off too, the green tape isn't like helping with the situation. So I'll definitely do that with you guys today, because taking the tape off is so much fun. Dare I say the best part? I don't know. It's hard to say. Okay, so let's do some mediums here in the glass. I might kind of pick up, like I can have artistic freedom here. And even though that's more grays in the actual image, I'm going to go for some color because I can do that. So like this little section here is a little bit grayed down. Then there's a little bit of a gray, brown, green color down in here. Like in the water, which is kind of weird, but and there's some, oops. Color medium value up in the glass here. Technically, you get a little bit coming down the side. I'm not seeing it as much on this side, but we'll put it in because I'm seeing some sort of change in value and color. I feel like this side's a little darker though. So there, the glass has a little bit more value to it. Now, the interesting thing about this white table background is that we honestly don't want it to be just like white. So I'm going to come in with a wet on wet technique. And it can stay mostly white, but I'm going to give it a little bit of something. Because, you know, color, white is almost never perfectly white, ever. And color, or white objects have a lot of color in them. So I'm just going to put a little glaze of a value, sort of a neutral green that can kind of run down the side here and blend in with the base. Oop. So hopefully you can see the difference between the two sides. This is like really, really, really white. And that I just dulled it down a little bit because I don't want it to compete with the yellow. And we'll kind of see as we put the yellow in what that's going to look like. If it is still competing and we need to go a little darker, we can decide. You have to kind of massage the water into the surface here. Okay, there. I'm pretty happy with that. So I gotta gear up, get ready for the yellow. I'm gonna switch brushes actually. Oh, shocking. Just a slightly smaller round. It's not that different. Just because I know that the daffodils themselves are smaller shapes and stuff. So I do want to make sure that I don't end up going over the edge. My background is still kind of wet, so I definitely want to be careful with that because I don't want dark creeping into the light yellow and vice versa. So I could darken some of these greens in the stems a little bit to get a little more contrast. There's some really shadowed sides to these dudes. That helps a little bit, make it a little darker. Let's do the yellow. I'll start with centers, because centers are actually a very light green. Like the little... And I can go brighter than what feels comfortable. I'm just going actually for everything that has that color green on it or similar. And then from there, I can go into a yellow. Ooh. Now there's different types of yellows happening here. Most of the yellows, especially on the ones that are dying, are more orangey. And like the center of daffodils are way more orange than the outside. And so my yellows need to be different. My yellow here is really dirty, so I better clean this guy off. My birthday's coming up this month, and so if anyone wants to buy me a new set like this, that'd be great. I've had this for like so many years. I think my dad brought it back from Germany for me. It's a German set. It is on Amazon. I was able to find it, so I'm gonna have to get myself another fresh set. I mean, this has lasted me like literally years, probably like 20 years. Is that possible? I don't know, 15, 20 years, something like that. I've had it for a long time. I didn't use it for a while. And then I found it again or something and was able to pull it out and play with it. And I loved it. And I've used it like a ton since then. So the tricky thing with painting these in, and I'm running out of time a little bit here, so we'll see if I end up having to cut this off sooner because I have to do something at noon. I can come in with a little more of an orangey green. I think, is it the right color? And while it's wet, there's some highlight shadow stuff happening. I don't know if I picked the right color though. It might be okay. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Probably should have gone in with more purple as my shadow. Maybe I'll do that down here. I guess it looks kind of purpley as I put it down. But it needs... too much. Oh yeah, purple's the way to go. Often that's the case because purple and yellow are opposites, and you can use one to dull the other and vice versa. It's a little nerve-wracking though. Okay, not too shabby. Not great, but my center now is more orangey yellow, so I put in just a touch of yellow or orange to my yellow. And now I want to come in and just put in that, at least around the border. It's okay if it blends with my other color for now because it's all yellow. It all needs to be yellow. Let's do the same thing here. But because it's more of a dead one, the edges get really, really orange. I definitely need to lighten this one though, because it's gonna drive me nuts. Okay, good. That's better. That's better. That's better. Those shadows that I put in were kind of overtaking, so making sure I'm not doing that. Okay, and then I'm gonna honestly, because these are all grouped together, I'm gonna come in and just brush over all of this with a yellow that has a little bit more white in it, meaning more water, more transparent, showing more of the whatchamacallit, the paper showing through, because that's how watercolor works. And then from there, I can be like, okay, what spots are more orangey yellow? Obviously, this head over here, kind of the base, and where it overlaps with these guys kind of is a little more orangey. Now I can put a little bit of purple in spots as well to make it, because especially these ones that are dying, they get like a little glimpse of like they're more transparent or something, and so then the background stuff should kind of almost show through petals a little bit. I want these ones farther away to not be quite so contrasty because they're in the distance, so we can really dull down what's happening, which is good. We need to do that. Okay, last little dude over here. Let's do the same thing. Yellow and then yellow orange in the center. Oh, okay. Yep, that's fine. I want to warm up. This has a little bit of value in it more to bring your eye into the center. There's like little ripples and shadows kind of coming in. Outside edge is a little bit more like that. I think I just want to lighten and lift some of these petals here and soften kind of the mess I made with the shadows. The first, I shouldn't have started that one first because it definitely, I didn't have the trick down. It's okay, you can fix it. Things are pretty forgiving. If you know what you're doing, you gotta know the medium pretty well to be able to do that. The center is still so rich though. Way more rich on this one than the outside petals or anything. Need enough water though. Okay, that can come in here. Yeah, just really make that pop. Okay, how's that? And then we just have little browns, and then I'm gonna take the tape off, and we will stop there for today. But let me come in and put just little hints of these brown little dried sections in there. A little bit of purple just to kind of dull them down, push them back, make them not the center of attention. This one could have a little bit more depth in it, but I don't have time right now. I'm going to come in and just put a few little things in the center. And we'll definitely come in and maybe refine that a little more. But let's take off the tape so you can see what this is going to look like against a white border, because it's often nice to see the difference. And again, colors interact with other colors and change sometimes with other colors, so you get to see the finished, almost finished piece. Thanks, Carissa. I'm happy with it. It's kind of what I wanted to do today. It was just a watercolor, simple watercolor of a still life. I should sign it. Is this wet down here? What year is it? 2020. Okay, I'm super happy with it. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful Easter weekend, and make the most of it, even though we're all stuck inside. All right, have a good one. Bye.